And so in chapter 11, we read, King Solomon loved many foreign women. Gotta have the girls, man. Besides Pharaoh's daughter, which we read about last week, you know how smart that was to be marrying Pharaoh's daughter, although it was not strictly forbidden in the law. But the law did warn against marrying women from these other peoples, Moab, Ammon, Edom, Sidon, from the Hittites. These were the Canaanite peoples who God was so worried that if you intermarry with them, they will turn your hearts against me, because they had this highly alluring form of religion that Israelites found irresistible over and over again. The Lord had clearly instructed the people of Israel, you must not marry them because they will turn your hearts to their gods. And yet Solomon insisted on loving them anyway. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines. Well, talk about success, man. This almost 1,000 women. I mean, that's got to be hot, you know? I mean, a lot of these gals were royal birth. These were probably political alliances. They may not have even consummated marriage. That happened a lot. It was more of an alliance type deal. Concubines, on the other hand, not much use of having a concubine if you're not going to get it on. You know, there was a lot of sex going on here. A lot of sex with a lot of women, and boy. You know, different people spell success different ways, and a lot of people would probably say this is probably even better than the gold and the horses and everything. Whatever happened to Deuteronomy, whatever happened to what God said, the king must not take many wives for himself, because they will turn his heart away from the Lord. Yes, in Solomon's old age, sure enough, they turned his heart to worship other gods instead of being completely faithful to the Lord his God, as his father David had been. A lot of this started when he would build them houses, and then they would be like, well, I want a shrine out and back, you know, for my God. I'm not an Israelite. I'm a Moabite princess, and so I need my own shrine out there. And so he'd be like, I'll build it one, you know, I don't care. And so he let them build their own shrines. Next thing you know, he went over to pay him a visit, wound up getting into it with him. Solomon worshipped Ashereth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. Oh man, is that bad. Molech, Chemosh, these are some of the vilest systems of worship. This was human sacrifice was burned to Molech. It was renowned for that, especially children. Children burned in fire in front of this idol. It's the vilest thing you can imagine. People would sacrifice their own children on there. In this way, Solomon did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He refused to follow the Lord completely as his father David had done. On the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem, he even built a pagan shrine for Chemosh, the detestable god of Moab, and another for Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. And these shrines, where human sacrifice was practiced, were still there when Josiah tore down the idol temples in Israel and the idol shrines in Israel hundreds of years later after this event. They survived there for hundreds of years, that whole time, people being slaughtered in a barbaric worship of a false gods. Solomon built such shrines for all his foreign wives to use for burning incense and sacrificing to their gods. The Lord was very angry with Solomon, for his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him now twice. 2 different times God had condescended to come and talk in person to Solomon, but still, here he is doing this. This is a very sad story. He had warned Solomon specifically about worshiping other gods, but Solomon didn't listen to the Lord's command. So, now the Lord said to him, comes back again, and he says, since you have not kept my covenant and have disobeyed my decrees, I will surely tear the kingdom away from you. and I'll give it to one of your servants. But for the sake of your father, David, I won't do it while you're still alive. I'll take the kingdom away from your son instead. And even then, I won't take the whole kingdom away. I'll let him be king of one tribe for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, my chosen city. Well, he'll get the reign right around here, but the rest of it's going off. People believe that it was after the super negative spiral that Solomon went into, where he fell away, is when he wrote. Sometime after that, near the end of his life, is when he probably wrote the book of Ecclesiastes, also in the Old Testament. If so, then there's hope that at the end of his life, Solomon saw the foolishness of his own way and repented and changed his heart back toward God. In Ecclesiastes 2, he describes the same thing we've been reading about from the inside, what it was like for him. Here's what he says. I said to myself, come on, let's try pleasure. Let's look for the good things in life. But I found that this too was meaningless. So I said, laughter's silly. What good does it do to seek pleasure? After much thought, I decided to cheer myself with wine. And while still seeking wisdom, I clutched at foolishness. So he's going to try to have wisdom and foolishness both. Get stoned. Maybe that'll help. In this way, I tried to experience the only happiness most people find during their brief life in this world. I also tried to find meaning by building huge homes for myself and by planting beautiful vineyards. I made gardens and parks, filling them with all kinds of fruit trees. I built reservoirs to collect the water to irrigate my flourishing groves. I bought servants, both men and women. Others were also born into my household. I also owned large herds and flocks, more than any of the kings who had lived in Jerusalem before me. I collected great sums of silver and gold, the treasure of many kings and provinces. I hired wonderful singers, both men and women, and had many beautiful concubines. I had everything a man could desire. Arts. There's the arts even. He's got it all, man. Yeah. Solomon rocking, man. This sounds like a blast. It's like an MTV movie of a successful rap artist or something like that. It's like, baby, there's the swimming pool, there's all the women, here's the money. So how was it, Solomon? So he says, I became greater than all who had lived in Jerusalem before me, and my wisdom never failed me. Well, he was famous. Fame, money, women. Anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. I even found great pleasure in hard work, a reward for all my labors. So sometimes I'd just do that. But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless. Like chasing the wind. There was nothing really worthwhile anywhere. Oh man, you kidding? So that's what it's like to have all that stuff. You think to yourself, you're thinking the whole time, I just need to gratify myself a little more. I really want to be gratified. I don't want to deny any pleasure to myself, and that'll be awesome, man. I can just have all these things, and then you get there and you have it, and it's like, dude, this is all? This is it? And there's a very great sorrow there.